horses have a remarkable way of helping us heal. And I don't mean that in a therapist kind of way. And I want to share with you a really personal story, essentially a testimony, for how horses have radically transformed my life from a point in my life in my childhood. And we all go through some rough stuff at some point in our life. Sometimes it's in your childhood, sometimes it's later. We all have those patches that we look back in life and we're like, hey, that was a little less than ideal. And for me, horses were the thing that brought me something that I was lacking in my life. And they did it, and horses helped me get through that time and past that time in one of the most productive ways possible, because they didn't let me dwell on the past. And I don't believe that horses are meant to be our therapists, but they certainly can heal us. And so I'm going to share with you guys a little bit of that story today. And for all y'all that are new here, maybe this is the first video or the first podcast that you found. My name's Colton Woods, and on a horsemanship level, my wife and I work together, and we run my business, Colton Woods Horsemanship, where I teach clinics. We run the professional horseman school. We help young professionals coming into the business be able to develop their horsemanship skills as well as their business skills. And then we run Horse Business Solutions and Horse Business Manager, which is a company where we help other horse business owners be able to centralize all of their business operations into one app called Horse Business Manager, where they can run all their social media, their messaging, their billing, run courses and memberships and all of those things all in one platform. And a lot of those things I never dreamed of that we would be doing, but horses led me to my wife. And between horses and my wife, they both pushed me, not directly, right, but through who they are and how much they mean to me, they've pushed me to continually pursuing being the best version of myself so that I can be of service to others, so I can be of service to my horses, so I can be of service to my wife, to my kids, so I can be of service to the people that God's trusted me with along the journey. And I never had any aspirations of running a software platform, running an app, running a horse business agency where we're helping other horse business owners. But it's thanks to horses that I've been pushed in that direction because that's how I can help as many people as possible. I'm going to get to the very beginning of this story here in a second and try not to get necessarily emotional about it. But the one big thing that has happened along this journey is once I really connected to my passion with horses, I really strive to help as many horses as possible. And that's been the key central theme of like, what do I have to do as an individual that I have control over to go help as many horses and people? Like first it was just how can I help as many horses as possible? And then it blossomed into, well, how can I help as many people as possible? Because people are connected to horses. And a lot of times one person might be connected to 2 or 3 horses. So what can I do to help as many horses as possible? What do I have to do? And over the years, that's actually led us to helping a lot of other professionals on the business side. And the reason being is because professionals touch many horses and professionals work directly with a lot of owners. And if I can help professionals in their business or sometimes even in their horsemanship, if I can help them be in a better position to serve their horses and serve their clients and serve their students and the owners and everyone they're blessed to work with, the ripple effect that we can have through the industry is far greater than perhaps just me riding 8, 10, 12 horses a day. And I'm blessed. Like I still get to ride horses every day, and we keep that as a centralized part because that's something I love to do. But I think that going back to the horse thing, right? It's that horses help me realize, like, it's the old Zig Ziglar quote that's like, if you help enough of other people get what they want in life, you'll have more than you want in life. And it's and it's the millennial answer of impact. How can I help have the most impact, but how can I be of service to as many horses and people as possible? And it all comes from me down to why I was put here on this earth. And there's so many signs throughout my life, especially early in my childhood, of certain people that were put in my life, certain events that happened in my life. And I'll share those things with you, because that's the whole point of doing this initial video here. And then my hope is that it might turn into a little bit of a weekly series of just sharing with you guys the personal stories, the highs and the lows, the challenges, all the things that I've experienced, and how horses at the center of it have helped me work through tough times, find joy in good times, overcome challenges, the things that I've learned, the mindset that I've developed. I just want to be authentic and real with you guys. I try to do that in all of our content anyway. But there's layers to things, right? And there's a big risk in putting some of this stuff out there. But at the end of the day, I think it's far more important to get this out there because of the people that I hope that it can help. Like I hope that this reaches some of you, and it does whatever it needs to do in your life. Okay. And so I decided to I made the decision to get back to the beginning of the story here. The beginning per se with horses for me, where horses heal. And as I mentioned, there are things that all of us go through. And for me, I went through some stuff as a kid. I'm going to tell you what it was here in a second. But it was during a very primitive time. I was 12 to 14 years old, was really where the thick of it went down. And as a 12 to 14-year-old boy, right, that's a very primitive part of your development. You're going through a lot, right? And for us, like, one of the opportunities I had as a kid, which was one of the biggest blessings that I could have possibly had, was I got to live in China, in mainland China, for 2 years. All right. And so we moved over there when I was 12, and we basically were there for my entire 12-year-old year, my entire 13-year-old year. Right. And we moved back, I think, basically as I was turning 14. And so I got to spend nearly 2 full years there. An amazing blessing. I absolutely loved living over there. Now, while we were living over there, things weren't always super cushy. And the crux of when we were living over in China, when I say it wasn't super cushy, was just the reality that there was a period of time my grandmother was sick with cancer for the 3rd time. And my mom had to come back to the United States. And so it was my brother, my dad, and I over in China. And at that point, my dad had a pretty significant drinking problem at the time. Okay. I share that with you. And I want to say this up front, is the fact that one of the biggest things that's held me back from sharing this stuff is because I have a really good relationship with my dad now. And I'm really thankful for that. Because there was a period of time where I wanted nothing to do with him. And by telling this story, right, I want to be very real, because I know a lot of people have had alcoholic parents, or maybe you're having a bit of a drinking problem, and you're trying to find comfort in substances, and wherever you're at, right, I want to share this because I know that there's a lot of people that deal and go through stuff like this, and it's important, I feel like, because I'm in a position now where I can share this, and I don't want this to disparage my dad in any way, because my dad thankfully has been sober for gosh, almost 20 years, right? Not quite 20 years, but almost 20 years he's been sober, and I'm so thankful for that. I talk to my dad a couple times a week, and they're probably some of my favorite conversations that I have throughout the week with people. And so, but it wasn't that way, right? It wasn't always that way. And my mom was back in the United States, you know, 13 years old. My brother's 12 years old, and we're living over there. And, you know, it's just really bad drinking problem. We're just in some very, it's a very, it's kind of a tough environment, right? Because you don't have family that you can just call, right? And you're dealing with time differences and your communication type deals, and there's just like it was a really tricky scenario to navigate as a 13-year-old kid, with the things that were going on and the things that get said, right, that have an impact on you, and the things that get done, when someone isn't thinking in a logical format, isn't really, as a father, I think that it's our responsibility to we're the leader of the household, and we're supposed to be, especially for young teenage boys, right, really setting the tone for what it looks like to be a man. And you're supposed to be the protector and the provider, and when you're in a position where you almost have the opposite of that, it for me, it created a lot of jadedness, to be very honest with you. And I was already very independent, up to that point, but I think that those experiences threw the fuel on the fire of me trying to pack the world on my shoulder, right? Because the reality of it was I had my younger brother and myself over there, and we were, in a way, trying to survive in a foreign country while navigating very volatile situations. And I don't have to go into the specifics for you guys, maybe, if you to understand, the realities of it, right? If you've been in these types of situations, or if you're living through them, you understand that there's a lot of volatility, and there's a lot of, you have to, in a way, these situations I'm thankful for, because they give me life experience. And for example, one of the things that I do find myself very grateful for is that, in that time period, right, I had to be able to read my dad's expression. I had to be able to read the room really quickly, for where he was at mentally or emotionally, right? What type of mood, or what was he thinking, or anything like that. That way I could navigate that situation, and it hones in a very acute sense of awareness, because you're trying to survive, right? Well, with horses, it takes the same thing, right? To really be successful with horses, you have to have a very acute sense of awareness. And I don't know whether I would have had that same sense of acute sense of awareness that I have now, had I not gone through that. And there's a saying, and it is a cliche saying, but it's like, life happens for you, not to you. And I think that some of that's just a mentality of, I can either be resentful and mad about that experience, or I can say, hey, it happened. What am I going to do with it? What am I going to do about it? And that's one of those things that I've been very hesitant to start sharing parts of this, because of how good of a relationship I have with my dad, and I don't want this to shed negative light on him, because it shouldn't, right? We're not our past. We're only as good as our last at bat. And as I said, like, I get to have awesome conversations with him every week, and to me, every one of those conversations is an at bat, right? All of this is behind us, but I share this now to hopefully help anybody that's gone through it. You're still in that healing process, you're going through it, whatever it is, and shed some light here, and also, share some light too as to how horses helped me overcome it, even when I didn't realize it. And so we made it through that tough stretch, right? We moved back to the States, and still had a couple months where things were rocky, and there was a lot going on in my life, as far as, like, God was not present. He wasn't present in the household, but he certainly wasn't present in my life. Even when I tried to, I was searching for something, and I found it within horses. But I was searching for something that I'll share with you in a second. And like I tried to go to youth group, and all the kids in this youth group, they were like, they'd show up to youth group and they'd have energy drinks, but they had poured vodka in their energy drinks before they got to, youth group at the church. I'm like, this is such a hypocrisy, you know. And that experience in China, not just what I went through with my dad, but actually the experience of going to school with people from all over the world really opened my mind to a whole nother dimension in terms of cultures and problems and realities that other people face. And so when I moved back to this small town USA thing, I had really culturally outgrown a lot of the people that had never left that small town, which made my friendships really difficult. I lost a lot of friends coming back because they were just obsessed with like stupid petty stuff. And I saw that even as young kids, which that had its impact, and I lost a lot of friends and I had to make new friends and all that sort of stuff because they were shallow, for lack of a better term. I mean, it wasn't their fault. It was just the environment that they grew up in. I had been exposed to a much deeper experience in life at a very primitive age. I'm thankful because my parents waited for us to move over there to that time period where my brother and I could hopefully get the most out of it. And I'm so thankful for that. And so I was searching for something and I couldn't find it in youth group. And then I don't remember all the things that I did, right? Like my brain doesn't work as well in the past. I try not to live there. My brain usually tends to live way more in the future, and I have to rein it back into the present. And so it was about 18 months after my dad got sober that horses came into my life. And I was really skeptical about this whole sobriety thing. I even told my mom, I was like, what happened? Like he went to rehab, and I was like, what happens if it doesn't work? And she just told me, she's like, well, I don't remember exactly what she said, but she said something to the effect of like, basically we'll have to see, and it was basically like, let's not worry about that. It hasn't, let's just see what happens here. And thankfully it did. Thank God he did get sober. And 18 months later, I started volunteering in horse rescue. And it was out of the need for some community service hours that I needed for a project in high school, right? We had a senior project. We had to start on it early on in high school. And so I started volunteering at this horse rescue because I think we need like 160 hours community service or something like that. And so I was just basically manual labor there at this place. And over a couple months, it was only 5 miles from my house. And so I could start volunteering to go out first thing in the morning and feed the horses before school. And so I'd be up 5:30, go out there, get there by 6, feed the horses, take care of all the chickens and the horses and stuff, go back, get ready for school, go to school. And I started feeling closer to God out there around those horses than I did in a church pew. And we were going to church on Sundays as a family, but I was still pretty jaded. And I was just kind of there, physically there, but I wasn't absorbing it. I was pretty closed off for quite a few reasons. And then it was just because I had a wound, right? And I heard this before, there's an open wound, but you have to be careful. If you have a wound that's open and it's sore, you have to be mindful about that, because if you talk about a wound too early, you can get wounded even more, right? But a lot of times you can talk about your scars. And that's what I feel like I'm doing here, is that I have healed through this, thank God, the horses. But when I think about where I was at that time, it's like, whoa, that was cut deep, right? And because I had this deep cut wound, and I was going with my parents, and I just was physically there in church. I didn't feel close to God. Some of it felt political, and some of you guys know that, right? Some of you guys know that some people go to church just to be seen. They're not there to worship the Lord. They're not there to further their knowledge of the Bible and those sorts of things. And it's a hypocrisy. And it's like, no, like to me, we go to church, my wife and my kids and I go to church now Sunday, but we go there to worship, to spend time with God, to spend time with people that, have that same faith-based stroke, and also to further our knowledge on biblical scripture, right? And we go to a church that facilitates that. And so I wasn't in that place. And when I started volunteering at this horse rescue, I know this now looking back. Didn't know it. Couldn't see it at the time. But horses basically they were needing three things from me. And the horses gave me the ability, they gave me a reason to show up, number one. And the horses needed me to show up. They needed me to be present with them. And they needed me to put the work in. And that was a ultimate recipe for success for me, right? Because I just needed to show up. I just needed to get out to the barn and feed them. And there was no I was excited every day to get out there and go do that with those horses. And so I got to show up. And then when I got out there, just being present with them, just to be present. And I wanted to be present with them. And there was something magical that was happening when I was able to, I got out there and it was like a little slice of heaven. And just me, some birds, the horses. No, you couldn't hardly hear any cars. Just me, the horses, and then it was like, do the work. And do the work. It has transformed over the years. But initially it was feed them, groom them off. And then within a couple of months of that rescue, it was me recognizing, hey, these horses, I started asking, because we had the same horses that came in and neglected or abused or whatever, and they were doing better, but they weren't finding new homes. And I asked them, and I was like, hey, ask the people around, aren't these horses finding new homes? And they're 2 to 6 years old, and they didn't have an education. So who wants a 2 to 6 year old pasture pet? And they were behaviorally fine on the ground, but they didn't know much. They didn't have an education beyond just being able to get turned out in the field and come in a stall, get groomed off. And at that point I had started working. I had worked a summer at a hunter jumper barn. And then I had even started the next summer working at an Arabian horse facility as a groom. And so I was volunteering throughout the school year and throughout the summer at this horse rescue in my spare time per se, which was really consistently. It was almost every day in some capacity when I was on the feed schedule. But then I was also had a job. I was getting jobs in the horse industry during the summers, and showing up, like just being able to show up and be present and then doing the work. Horses, when I started seeing that these horses lacked the education to find a next home, to me that was a big problem in the system, because this is supposed to be a rescue. And these were young horses, and they're taking up a spot. They're physically and mentally in a better spot, but they don't have the education. And so showing up and doing the work started to change for me a little bit, because now I'm like, well, these horses need to know more so they can find a better home. And at these other jobs, like I was getting familiar with saddling horses, lunging horses. And these horses that the rescuer had been around people and gentled them and blanketed, and so getting them saddled and, teaching them some basic groundwork, very rudimentary groundwork, very rudimentary, was something I was like, I could do my best at. And they were very gracious at that rescue. In fact, the very first round pen we put up, it was a circle of T-posts with rope tied around it. And some of you guys are going, that is our train wreck waiting to happen. And I can guarantee you not one horse got in a wreck in that round pen. But they lived in electric fence. They lived in electric tape fence that was white. And the rope that we used in that round pen was white. They were not going to touch the outsides of that round pen. And I laugh at it looking back. I don't know if the people that I was volunteering for did it intentionally. If they did, it was really wise, because it was what we had. right? It kept the horses safe. It worked really well. It was a big round pen. It was probably 60, 70 feet. There was a lot of room in there. But I got to then show up, be present with those horses in the round pen. And then I started learning through trial and error. But the horses gave me this purpose. And this is really where like the healing part came in for me, because horses, I don't believe, are our therapists. They're not meant to be our therapists. And I think it's unfair when people try to make their horse their therapist. That's my 2 cents on it. Okay. I've never asked a horse to be my therapist. Okay. They have helped me heal though. And when we came back from China and my dad was getting sober and my mom was trying to do the best that she could do, she tried to take me to therapy. And I wanted nothing to do with it. I was not interested. I didn't want to talk to that lady. I didn't want to sit in that chair. I honestly don't hardly remember much of it, other than I only went a few times, and my mom tried to sit me in the car afterwards, and I was not happy about it. I was like, I don't want to go. Not talking to that lady. It's none of her damn business, as far as I was concerned. Right. And very independent, right, throughout that whole process of, I'm going to find a way out of this for my mom, my brother, and I. And that was the mentality that I had. I learned about a weakness that I had in my body, that if I let it go the wrong direction, or if I don't harness it, it can go the wrong direction. If I do harness it, it can be one of the best superpowers that I have. And when things got really tough, I started building plans, business plans, for what my mom was great at and what we could do, and how my mom, my brother, and I could work together to kind of rebuild a life. As far as I was concerned, I was done with my dad in the midst of that deal. And I bring that up now because I was done. I was not interested in repairing it. As far as I was concerned, be gone with you. And my mom showed the shining example in marriage in a funny, lighter tone. She was like, I'll never get divorced, but I might become a widow. And, and so that's just good Southern living right there. Right. And so, but she stuck with him through that deal. And like, yeah, she pressured him hard, in order for him to make the decision to go to rehab. Right. Like, they had filed papers, and she's like, either you go or we sign these papers. And because there had to be an ultimatum at that point, but she stuck through him and she worked through it. And I think that was from my mom's standpoint, like, I couldn't appreciate it because I didn't understand it. I had conversations with my mom, like, why do you keep dealing with this bull crap that is going on? I was just like, get rid of the pain. Like, as a kid, I'm like, just let him go. Like, this is stupid. We don't need to be dealing with this. And I didn't understand, like, they made a commitment to each other, and oh, it was strong. Anybody that's met my mom, she's hard nosed, very disagreeable. So I say that because she's probably gonna watch this. Love you, Mom. And very, very just super gritty woman, and very just super smart and capable. And I couldn't understand it then. I can see it now in the value of what she was holding together and what she was fighting for, to make happen. But amidst all of that, I was that weakness that I have is that when someone starts to do things that is not in alignment, I can be pretty quick to go, okay, I'm not going to mess with you, and just move on. Right. And when I started to feel like someone has bad intentions and stuff, I'm really quick just to move on. And because I don't feel like I have to surround myself with a lot of people. I can surround myself with the right people. And that's what I think comes back to that experience. Is I had my brother, I had my mom, I had a couple close people, and if you're not here to fight for the mission that we're on and to add value into, and you're going to pull away from it, and you're going to try to hurt what we're doing, and you're going to try to distract us or whatever, I'm really quick to I can be quick to kind of go push those people away. I have a lot of awareness around that now, and so I can be way more mindful of that. But at the time, I just had this very hard independent strength of like, we don't need him. Let's go do these things. I've got a plan. Right. As a 13-year-old, I had whole written business plans on what we could do. And I'd only known entrepreneurship. Right. So my parents ran their own businesses. And so that was where my mind went, is like, how can we be in control of our future and our destiny? And so I know that now, and I'm mindful of that, right? I'm mindful of that. And thank God, God gives us grace, because otherwise he should have discarded me a long time ago too. And so it can also be a superpower though, because then you realize, how to cut dead weight, right? How when it is appropriate to move on, right? And to keep your circle lean and with the people that actually are there to build you up and pull you up and lift you up to that next level. And how, if you do have crabs in the bucket, people that are constantly trying to pull you down, that you do cut them free, right? You cut the little rope they're trying to climb up to get to you so they can pull you down. And, and I realized that, and so my mom tried to send me the therapy deal. I had no interest in doing that. I don't frankly think that that's all that necessary. Or I'm sure that certain things do need therapy, but what horses showed me was like, hey, if I can show up, if I can be present, I can put the work in. And when I started to see the need that horses had for an education, that sparked a sense of purpose in me. And this is the first step was showing up, being present, putting the work in. That's where the healing process started really taking place. Because the thing that I found, and I didn't want to forget to say this, because I said earlier, like, hey, there was something I was looking for that I couldn't find anywhere else, right? I couldn't find it in groups of bad friends that were doing things that shouldn't be done, right? Smoking weed, whatever, right? I didn't smoke that much weed. I smoked a little bit, but like, I say that to be real, okay? I've smoked weed, yes, like maybe 6 times in my life, right? Did I try it? Yeah. Why? Because I was trying to find people, trying to find groups of friends that I was searching for this thing that I could not find. I couldn't find it in the corrupted youth group that existed. I couldn't find it in these groups of friends. And I was struggling to find it. And what I ended up finding early on within those horses, and it created this craving. That's why I said I was excited to get to the barn at 6 o'clock in the morning as a 16-year-old kid, right? I was excited to get up at 5 and 6 in the morning, to go to these horses. And it was because when I got there was peace. When I got to the barn, there was peace. And that was the thing I'd been looking for. That was the thing that my body and my soul were craving, was peace. It was a thing that had been not present for quite a while. And I didn't know what it was. Right? That's why I said I felt closer to God out there amongst those horses and the trees and the sunrise than I did in a church pew. I don't feel that way now. I love our farm. I love being out there with my sheep and our pigs and our horses and our chickens and my kids and my wife and intern and people that come through and teaching students. I feel close to God there when I'm doing that. And I feel close to God when I go to church too now. I didn't feel like that at the beginning. And I found this sense of peace at the barn. And that peace was like a drug, right? My soul needed it. And, I wasn't some like troubled teen, by the way, right? Like, I wasn't out doing a bunch of crazy stuff, right? Like, but I wasn't settled, right? Not that I'll ever let grass grow under my feet and stay still too long. I just, in a way, like you could say, like, oh, he's kind of a loner, yeah, because I didn't participate in all the cut up stuff that stupid teenage boys do. I just never, I thought it was childish. I never didn't like hanging around them, and it made making friends difficult, right? I wasn't wearing some stupid black trench coat either, right? I could participate with people, but I just felt like most of the people my age were childish. And I felt like that was part of the reason, because I got exposed to certain things. I got exposed culturally to living overseas. I got exposed to a very significant life experience of going through dealing with an alcoholic parent at a very primitive time, which forced me to kind of grow up even more, because it was either that, or it was either figure it out or be miserable. And like, in a way, if your brain goes, either you're going to survive or you're not going to survive. I'm not saying that I was ever in a fight for my life situation. That never happened. But in your brain can go, you're in survival mode, right? And when you're in survival mode, you think different, you operate different. And that's where I've been living. And when you're in survival mode, you lack peace. We know this is true with horses. And so the barn gave me this sense of peace. And then as I started seeing these horses that lack the ability to find homes, it struck this chord in me. It sparked this fire within my soul that was like, hey, well, if they need that, let's put up this round pen and let me get to work. And they let me wing it. They totally let me wing it. All right. And some cool things happened. We built relationships with local trainers, and I could do some basic groundwork and get them ready to be rode, but I didn't ride horses at the time. Never rode horses. So I was like, well, let me get them prepped on the ground, and then you guys take them. And that way they're basically as gentle as possible for you guys to take them. Right. And we moved quite a few horses that way, and it gave me purpose. And the thing is that was the beginning of the healing process for me, because then what ended up happening was, for me to better work with these horses, I myself had to become a better version of myself. These horses did not throw my weaknesses back in my face, but they certainly shed light on the areas that I was inefficient in. And I had to make the decision, like, well, if I'm going to help this horse and I'm not good in this area, mentally, physically, emotionally, or spiritually, I have to get better at that. And I didn't look at it that way then, right? I just saw, like, I'm trying to help this horse and I'm getting frustrated about this, right? Then I need to work on myself. Like, I need to find a better way to explain this to the horse. So the horse has better understanding. I need to have better skills so that I'll feel less frustrated, right? I need to work on emotional regulation so I don't get that frustrated. I need to stay focused on a solution, not getting caught up in the moment. And I could understand those things in the moment, and those horses gave me this sense of purpose. And in order to better help the horses, I myself had to improve as a person. The better I could get, the better the horses could get. And horses, in a way, I started in on this to work with horses to help the horses, but the horses were really helping me more than I was helping them. And I'm so thankful for that. Like, I look back at some of those horses and I'm like, they, to most people, they were nothing special. They're like gaited horses or somebody's little like crossbred, inbred pony that ended up getting abused or neglected. And it's like, but those horses were in my life at a time in my life where I think God put them there for a reason, because he knew that I needed them more than they needed me, right? Yeah, they needed to get out of a bad situation. But when I really look back at those moments, if I focused on, I just focused on getting myself better, right? And because I was trying to help them, not realizing that at the same time that I was trying to get better, that was helping me, right? Like, I didn't see it at the time, because I was just trying to help these horses. I wasn't trying to be a better horseman. I wasn't trying to be a better son. I wasn't trying to prepare myself to be a good husband at the time, right? I wasn't trying to prepare myself to be a father at the time, right? I was just trying to get these horses into a better spot. And in turn, they were helping me heal, right? The healing part comes from when we show up, we get present, and we do the work. To me, that's where the healing process begins. And today, I've like, whether I'm retraining a problem horse, I'm starting a wild Mustang, I'm helping an owner with the horse at a clinic, right? It starts with us. It starts with us, and horses are an amazing catalyst for us horse people because we're horse crazy. Like, as my intern said the other day, I had a client ask me, like, how the heck did you even get into horses? And and my intern kind of spoke up, and she said, well, we all get bit by the bug, and the bug doesn't discriminate. And that's it's pretty true, right? Like, there's, from my childhood, I didn't go into like how I grew up necessarily, but that's another story for another day. But I didn't grow up in a horse family, right? Obviously, I lived in China for 2 years, played mainstream sports. Like, I didn't grow up around horses. Very black sheep of the family. And so when we look at being able to better serve our horses, and that's what leadership is, right? Leadership is how well do we serve others, right? And that's what we're meant to be doing with our horses. Is if we want to go trail ride our horse, and we want to go do rein cow horse, and we want to do the cutters, or we want to do the jumpers, and we want to do eventing, we want to do endurance riding. It doesn't liberty horses. Those are the things that we want to do, and those desires, and horses, I believe, are put into our life so that we can go fulfill those desires, right? We should be able to guide our horses in that direction so we can go do what we want to do, because I think that, God puts horses here for us to enjoy. But in order for us to get to that point where we can go do the things that we enjoy, we have to meet the needs of the horses, right? We have to serve the horse first, and then be making sure that we're doing what we need to do, how we need to do it to guide that horse in that direction. And it all starts from then we need to serve the horse. So then where are we at? Where are we starting from? And then being able to realize that if there's changes that need to be made, a lot of times those changes are within ourselves first. And then as we make those changes within ourselves, we can lead that horse so the horse can make the changes within themselves that they need, right? I've got a couple touchy horses in right now, and we're not trying to make the horse do it. We're guiding that horse. We're asking that horse, hey, you're going to show up, right? Because you're a horse. So we're going to show up. We're going to show up. We need you to be present, because I want my horses to be focused. The more focused they get, the more relaxed they get. The more relaxed they get, the more they can learn, right? And the more they can learn, then we can get into like performance-based type stuff, better balance, better posture, all that sort of thing. Well, that focused relaxation, understanding, and honestly, I didn't even put two and two together until I was talking through this with you guys now, which is that focus to relaxation to understanding is very much the show up, be present, put in the work. It's almost the same framework, because when you focus, you got to show up, and then you focus, right? And when you focus, you can find peace in that. That's why I talk about my sessions with my horses as like a working meditation. And so you can be physically putting in the work, but in a meditative type way, to where you can find enjoyment in the tough stuff. And so you can show up, you can be present, right? When you're present, you're more relaxed. Okay. You can still be engaged, but you're relaxed. And then when you're focused and relaxed, then you can actually learn something. And it's just that show up, be present, put in the work. Because when you put in the work, that's the third step. And the third step on the other side is focus, relaxation, understanding. When you put in the work, you can develop understanding and develop your learning patterns, and find the things that you need to get better at, find the things that you're already good at, all those types of things. And so, horses heal, right? Along this journey, I've been so thankful, because one of the groups that I'm super passionate about is serving veterans and first responders and people that have served our country, that selflessly put themselves in harm's way a lot of times to keep us safe, to keep us healthy, all those things. And I never served in the military, and so along my journey, when I've had chances to give back to those groups of people, to those veterans and first responders and those types of things, I'm always gung-ho to do it. In fact, we've had multiple veterans that have come through the professional horseman school, right? And I love working with those guys because they know how to show up. They know how to put the work in, right? And then it's a matter of, and then being able to watch some of those guys and gals go through the changes that they have to experience and that they need to make within themselves so they can better train their horses is fascinating and phenomenal. And so we've even got an opportunity, I can't quite announce it yet, but we've partnered with a veteran and first responder organization to provide a really cool experience coming up here in the next couple of months. And I'm really excited to share that with you guys because horses have helped change my life. And it's wild because, like, I don't know if the horses even know it, right? And there's been thousands of horses that have been a part of this at this point that I've been blessed to work with, but they've changed my life, and they help me. The main thing is they help me get my peace back, right? They help me get a sense of peace back. And whenever I'm feeling stressed out, man, just go to the freaking barn, go spend it outside with your horses. And they've helped me heal past a time in my life that was less than ideal. I wouldn't wish anybody to go through that, but I certainly don't regret it on my end. I don't live with that in my heart and my soul. I was like, I don't hold any resentment about it. I'm like, it is what it is. And there's within those tough times, I do believe, like when I talk about that acute sense of awareness that I have now with horses, I think there's a deep stronghold that came from developing that when I was going through those tough moments in life. And it's not a matter of what happens, it's what do we do with it, right? And that's part of why I wanted to share this with you guys, because I hope that this helps somebody. I really hope that this helps somebody in some way, however it needs to help you, because I never got the feeling when a couple weeks ago when I started getting the feeling that I need to start sharing some of these stories with you guys, and they're not all like this, right? But this is the beginning for me. This is the beginning of my journey, and there's many experiences along the way that I'd like to share with you guys if you guys are interested in it, that have helped me get through this journey of life. And I haven't felt like keeping this to myself was doing a service to other people, right? Because the selfish part was that holding it to myself was selfish because of personal reasons. But ultimately, many of us go through stuff, right? And many of us have a passion for horses. And I think that when we approach our horses and we say, let's just go out there, let's show up, let's focus on being present, and then let's put in the work. When we do those things, whether it's pounding T-posts, setting up fence panels, feeding horses, right, putting out hay, right, dragging the arena, fixing fence, like whatever it is initially, and then it's working on learning how to lead a horse, working on some groundwork, maybe learn how to start a colt better. It all depends on the work. Just depends on what you currently know. You work from where you're at, but you just show up, you be present, you put in the work, and you focus on being better, being a better person, right? How can I communicate better? How can I be less quick to judge? How can I be less, anxious? How can I be more patient? How can I communicate clearer? All those things. How can I do these things better so that I can better work with these horses? And it transfers into every area of our lives. And when we focus on being a better person for our horses, we can be a better husband, we can be a better wife, we can be a better son, we can be a better father, we can We can be a better boss. We can be a better employee, right? We can be a better human. And what a powerful thing that horses allow us to experience. That all for the love of a horse, they can bring so much peace, so much purpose, and help us grow in a way personally that will affect our lives and potentially even generations down the road. And I couldn't be more thankful to horses for that. So we're going to wrap this one up, y'all. I appreciate you if you made it this far. Horses heal. And it's real. And for that, I'm thankful. And I'm thankful for all y'all that have taken the time to watch this or listen to this. And you can feel free to share it. You can feel free to share your own testimony in the comments if you want to. You can feel free to do whatever you'd like to do. I put this out there in hopes that I reach a couple people that it can help. And we'll keep them coming. If you guys want more videos sharing these stories of how horses have helped me navigate, develop myself personally, develop business type stuff, like it's all so connected because it's all rooted in sitting on the back of a horse in an arena in 2017 going, what is this mission that I'm on? And God, I know it was God today, but at the time I didn't. And I was trying to find the words to put it in to take the feeling and put it into words. And it was educating horses and people with a lifetime in mind. And everything we do today, whether it's through professional horseman school, whether it's through the Colton Woods Horsemanship, through our CAVI community, which is our private online community, where I've got a private podcast in there. I've got, all types of horse training videos. It's a group, so you can ask all your questions in there. That's our CAVI community. That's for mainly horsemanship and personal development. And then we've got our horse business manager app, right? And that's the app for horse business owners to run their business from. And then you guys also, if you're a horse professional, you also get access to an app called Horse Business Builders, which is a community for horse professionals only. That's all dedicated to networking and education and resources and support on building your horse business. We're right there to help you. And so all of that is in an effort right down the path to educate horses and people with a lifetime in mind so that we can help as many horses, we can help as many people as possible, because I know that that's what God has put me on this earth here to do. And it's my job to show up, be present, and do the work. So that's what we're focused on. I hope this resonated with you guys. I'm really thankful you're being here, and we'll see you next time.